Hi everyone. Okay, I know I've been off screen for a short while. I hope you're doing well. I'm back now with a video haul that is absolutely huge. So maybe you'll be thankful that I've been away by the time you finish this lot. So a couple of weeks ago in my local community, they have an annual book and DVD sale. It's a really fun event. It's for raising money for the local community, and it starts on a Friday, finishes on a Sunday. Day one, DVDs are $1 and box sets are $2, but by the end of the weekend they just want things to go, and so then you can fill a bag for $10 and 70 movies will fit in a bag. So yeah, lots of stuff that I've picked up, varying quality perhaps, but you can be the judge of that. But yeah, a real mixture, so let's get on with it. Now, first up, fascinating one this, quite underseen. This is Twice in a Lifetime. Amy Madigan has just won her first Oscar for being in Weapons, but back in 1985 she was Oscar nominated in this movie, Twice in a Lifetime, but the main stars here are Gene Hackman and Anne Margaret and Ellen Burstyn. Another Fox film noir to add to my collection. This is Jean Crane and Jean Peters in Vicky. And Robert Wagner and Broderick Crawford in this wartime movie, Between Heaven and Hell. A lot of people familiar with this one. Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy with Robert De Niro and Jerry Lewis. And here we have 100 Men and a Girl. Maybe not a movie title that would be used in today's climate. But yeah, this one has Deanna Durbin as a young girl who tries to encourage the composer Leopold Stokowski to employ her widowed father musician and 99 other out-of-work musicians to form an orchestra. Fun one this. This is Action at Sea in Juggernaut, directed by Richard Lester and with Richard Harris and Anthony Hopkins. Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor, Eva Marie Saint, and also Charles Bronson, starring The Sandpiper, directed by Vincente Minnelli. Nice to find a Blue Underground release. This is directed by Sergio Martino, Manaha, A Man Called Blade. The Scarlet and the Black. This has Gregory Peck as an Irish priest working at the Vatican during the German occupation. Also co-stars Christopher Plummer. Classic grapefruit in the face gangster movie, The Public Enemy, starring James Cagney and Jean Harlow. Excellent thriller this one from Steven Spielberg, Munich. And another Fox War Classics title, this is D-Day the 6th of June, starring Robert Taylor and Richard Todd. From 1946, we've got Irene Dunne and Rex Harrison in Anna and the King of Siam, later made as a musical as well, The King and I, with Yul Brynner and Deborah Kerr. A Preston Sturges comedy here, we've got Eddie Bracken and Betty Hutton in The Miracle of Morgan's Creek. And another Fox War Classics title, To the Shores of Tripoli, with Randolph Scott and John Payne and Maureen O'Hara. From 1991, we've got Michelle Pfeiffer in Love Field, playing a woman who wants to be there for Jackie Kennedy when she goes to attend JFK's funeral. Kenneth Branagh's reworking of Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile, not as good as the version directed by John Gilliman. An absolutely classic kitchen sink drama from 1961 with Albert Finney, Don't Let the Bastards Grind You Down, and Shirley Ann Field, Saturday Night and Sunday Morning. Fantastic movie. I only had this one on one of those free DVDs that you got with the newspapers, so glad to have this DVD now. One I remember fondly from my childhood, although it is a little bit upsetting. This is The Bellstone Fox. And the movie that it inspired, Disney's The Fox and the Hound. Now from 1972 we've got Elvis on Tour. I've definitely been going through an Elvis kick lately. I absolutely loved seeing Epic on IMAX over the last couple of months. Just a superb documentary, great footage in that. But yeah, Elvis on Tour, this should be good as well. And another Fox War Classics title, this is Jeffrey Hunter in Sailor of the King. From 1941, directed by Michael Curtiz and starring Errol Flynn and Fred MacMurray, this is Dive Bomber. And from 2001, I've got horror movie The Rats. Now, I thought this might have been based on the novel by James Herbert. I absolutely loved James Herbert novels when I was younger. Rats and Lair, they were particularly exciting. But this is not based on James Herbert, but it is written by Tommy Lee Wallace, who also directed Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Visually groovy, but not exactly a great movie. This is Modesty Blaise, directed by Joseph Losey and starring Monica Vitti, Terence Stamp and Dirk Bogarde. What's this? Another Foxwall Classics? Yeah, this is Tyrone Power and Betty Grable in A Yank in the RAF. Another Blue Underground title, and we've got Four of the Apocalypse, directed by Lucio Fulci and starring Fabio Testi, Thomas Milian and Michael J. Pollard. And another Western, we've got Bullet for the General, this one directed by Damiano Damiani, scored by Ennio Morricone, and starring Gian Maria Volonte, Klaus Kinski, and Hammer movie starlet Martine Beswick. A couple of Elvis Presley movies here. We've got this one, Flaming Star, directed by Don Siegel, and making his film debut in Love Me Tender. A great Val Lewton double bill here. We've got I Walked with a Zombie, directed by Jacques Tourneur, and The Body Snatcher, directed by Robert Wise, starring Boris Karloff. From director Satoshi Kon, who directed Perfect Blue, which I thought was excellent, this is Millennium Actress. Directed by Richard Fleischer, this is Anthony Quinn, Jack Palance and Ernest Borgnine in Barabbas. Haven't seen this since the cinema. This is from 1985, John Cleese in Clockwise. Directed by Irving Kershner, who directed The Empire Strikes Back, this is Barbara Streisand in Up the Sandbox, with absolutely horrible artwork here. Poor Barbara. With a screenplay by Alex Garland, this is directed by Mark Romanek, Never Let Me Go, with Keira Knightley, Carey Mulligan and Andrew Garfield. Gremlins and Gremlins 2, The New Batch. And from director Terence Davis, his film about Emily Dickinson, the poet, starring Cynthia Nixon, A Quiet Passion. From director Sidney Lumet, no less, this is Critical Care with James Spader and Kyra Sedgwick. And classic comedy from 1980, directed by Sidney Poitier, Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor in Stir Crazy. The great Kieran Hines stars in this Thomas Hardy adaptation of The Mayor of Casterbridge alongside Jodie May and Polly Walker. And really fun one this from Phil Alden Robinson, who also directed Field of Dreams. This is Sneakers with Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd and many others. Ice hockey comedy with Michael Keaton and Maria Conchita Alonso, Touch and Go. From 1961, Jerry Lewis in The Errand Boy. From 1936, Deanna Durbin makes her film debut in this Oscar-nominated movie, Three Smart Girls. Ray Milland also features in this. And a film I remember doing terribly when it came out. This is directed by Bob Rafelson, but with a great cast that includes Jack Nicholson, Ellen Barkin, Harry Dean Stanton, Beverly D'Angelo. This is Man Trouble. Rex Harrison and Samantha Eggar, who passed away last year, in Dr. Dolittle, directed by Richard Fleischer. And then we've got World War II drama The Purple Plain, starring Gregory Peck, directed by Robert Parrish. Produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and directed by Dominic Senna, this is Nicolas Cage and Angelina Jolie in Gone in 60 Seconds, director's cut. But yeah, not nearly as wild as the original H.B. Halicki version. I have this on Laserdisc, but good to get this Brandon Lee movie, Rapid Fire, that also stars Powers Booth, directed by Dwight Little. Then, still sealed, this one. This is Starship Troopers 2. And this one was directed by Phil Tippett, the special effects expert. So, yeah, I've not seen it. It won't have the same kind of satirical style as Verhoeven's, but I'll be interested to see it nonetheless. From Christopher McQuarrie, before he got tied up with Tom Cruise movies, this is Way of the Gun with Benicio del Toro, a young performance from him, and Ryan Philippe. And here we have Dick, a very young Michelle Williams and Kirsten Dunst in a comedy centred around Richard Nixon. And Richard Nixon here is played by Dan Hedaya. Not a great movie, this one, but it does have a little bit of sentimental value to me. This is RV, starring Robin Williams, directed by Barry Sonnenfeld. And then we've got George Clooney, Jeff Bridges and Ewan McGregor in The Men Who Stare at Goats. And then from 1949, Donald O'Connor in Francis the Talking Mule. And then here we've got still sealed this very nice edition of the original 1958 version of The Fly. This was a special 2014 Comic-Con edition. And similarly, still sealed, another 2014 Comic-Con special edition of RoboCop, which has loads of great special features on here. I do have the Criterion DVD edition of RoboCop, but yeah, this is very nice. Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. And then from Steven Soderbergh, we've got Benicio del Toro in Shay, Part 1 and Part 2. Still sealed, Alien vs Predator Requiem. Now, I'm not sure I've actually seen this. I know it has terrible reviews. Maybe I've seen it and I've just forgotten it, erased it from my memory, but we'll see. Anthony Hopkins as Alfred Hitchcock in Hitchcock, also starring Helen Mirren and Scarlett Johansson. And then an interesting one here, this is a documentary directed by Morgan Neville, and it goes back to 1968 and a political debate between Gore Vidal and William Buckley Jr. So yeah, this should be pretty interesting. Next, a pretty nice steelbook here of Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch. Okay, back to DVDs, and we have Dirk Bogarde in Campbell's Kingdom. From 1941, we've got Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in The Corsican Brothers, based on a novel by Alexandre Dumas, who also wrote The Three Musketeers. Ben Stiller's cult comedy, The Cable Guy, with Jim Carrey and Matthew Broderick. And here we've got 4 screwball comedies, 2 of which star Jean Arthur and 2 star Rosalind Russell. The ones with Jean Arthur are If You Could Only Cook and Too Many Husbands. And then the ones with Rosalind Russell are My Sister Eileen and She Wouldn't Say Yes. And there's Fred McMurray there as well. From 1959, and director Vincente Minnelli, this is Robert Mitchum and Eleanor Parker in Home from the Hill. And then here we've got Fred McMurray again and Charlton Heston, both playing Lewis and Clark on an expedition in 1803. This one directed by Rudolph Mate. From director Alan Parker, this is Albert Finney and Diane Keaton in a relationship drama, Shoot the Moon. And love this movie, I think one of Bob Hoskins' best performances, and yes, I rate it over Long Good Friday. This is Mona Lisa, also starring Michael Caine. A television follow-up to Frank Herbert's Dune, this is Children of Dune with James McAvoy. And then a bit of parkour action in District 13 and District 13 Ultimatum. And then another Western, we've got Franco Nero in Keoma, directed by Enzo Castellari. And this one also co-stars the great Woody Strode. From 1947 and directed by Raoul Walsh, we've got Robert Mitchum and Teresa Wright in Pursued. Talked about this one before because I have the Laserdisc, but yeah, this is the great John Houseman in The Paper Chase, also starring Timothy Bottoms. An Anthony Mann Western, here we have Gary Cooper and Lee J. Cobb in Man of the West. And then from director Mia Hansen-Love, who directed Bergman's Island and Eden, this is Isabelle Huppert in Things to Come. And then going back to the early days of British cinema, we've got Arthur Lucan playing Old Mother Riley in a series of movies here. 6 movies on this set. The one that particularly caught my eye is Mother Riley Meets the Vampire, which is directed by John Gilling, who has directed a few Hammer movies, and it co-stars Bela Lugosi. Robert Altman's classic MASH. And great movie this, I'll probably talk about this one later. This is Irene Dunne, Alec Guinness and Finlay Curry in The Mudlark. Another Fox film noir for my collection. This is The House on 92nd Street, directed by Henry Hathaway. And then one of the many adaptations of August Strindberg's Miss Julie. This one's directed by Mike Figgis, and it stars Saffron Burrows and the excellent Peter Mullen. Still sealed, we've got a couple of Richard Pryor stand-up concerts, Richard Pryor Here and Now and Richard Pryor live on Sunset Strip. And also still sealed, this is a DVD steelbook of The X-Files, I Want to Believe. Zero Mostel, perhaps most famous for being in The Producers alongside Gene Wilder, but here stars alongside Harry Belafonte in The Angel Levine. Then we've got this World War I drama directed by Gillies MacKinnon, starring Jonathan Pryce, Johnny Lee Miller, James Wilby. This is Regeneration. Sean Connery at Disney in Darby O'Gill and the Little People, co-starring Janet Munro. And then classic expedition drama, Scott of the Antarctic, starring John Mills and Kenneth More and James Robertson Justice, directed by Charles Friend. Okay, I'll just show you a few box sets now. And first up, still sealed, here we have the box set of Paul Verhoeven's infamous Showgirls. So yeah, I do have this on DVD and Laserdisc, but hey, look at all the extras that are included here, and I have to think of my future. I mean, my YouTube account isn't making me money, so maybe I'll have to set up an OnlyFans account, and maybe I can use the nipple tassels and the blindfold for that. What do you think? Okay, so look at all those extras. Shot glasses, game cards, blindfold, playing cards, you name it. It's all here in this box set. Never seen this, but this is a complete series of Birds of Prey, an offshoot of Batman. So yeah, looks interesting. And then I have 3 seasons here of Get Smart, the 60s series that was inspired by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry. So yeah, 1 season here. Season 2. And then we jump forward to season 5. And I've got the first 2 seasons of That 70s Show, which was the series that really helped launch the careers of Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher and Topher Grace. And here's the 2nd season. And then also got the 1st season of Family Ties, and with a very young Michael J. Fox. I do remember watching this on TV when I was a kid. So yeah, obviously before he hit the big time with Back to the Future, but this was a very successful TV show. The complete Pink Panther cartoon collection, pretty good fun. I do have the Pink Panther movies in this same spongy style set. Never a series that I got into when I was young. I'm not sure I'll enjoy it now, but this is the complete On the Buses. And then the wonderful Penelope Keith and Peter Bowles in the complete series of To the Manor Born. Roger Moore and Tony Curtis in the 1st season of The Persuaders. And then another series that I missed out on when I was younger, so I'm not really familiar with it, but this is Randall and Hopkirk Deceased, the 1st season. And then here we've got a special box set here of the classic The Notebook with Ryan Gosling and Rachel Adams. A lot of extras included inside this that include a booklet as well as bookmarks and postcards, etc., etc. Yeah, a lot of extras. Back to regular DVDs, and here we have 4 films featuring James Stewart, and those movies are Next Time We Love from 1936, You've Gotta Stay Happy from 1948, Thunder Bay from 1953, and The Glenn Miller Story from 1954. Alicia Silverstone and a very young Benicio del Toro here in Excess Baggage, also starring Christopher Walken. And then the Skulls trilogy. Haven't seen any of these, but yeah, starring Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker. Catherine Bigelow's pretty intense racial drama Detroit, starring John Boyega. And then Al Pacino in Simone, directed by Andrew Niccol. Very far-fetched story this, about the creation of an AI co-star. That would never happen, surely. The great James Earl Jones and Diane Carroll in Claudine, directed by John Berry. You can get this one in the Criterion Collection. And classic adventure here, directed by Zoltan Korda. This is John Clements and Ralph Richardson in The Four Feathers. Some Disney animation that escaped my attention when it came out. This is The Emperor's New Groove. And then I do already have these on individual DVDs, but nonetheless picked it up. This is Charles Bronson in Death Wish 2, 3 and 4. Another Thomas Hardy adaptation, and this one is Jude the Obscure, starring the great Robert Powell. Judd Apatow's Funny People, starring Adam Sandler, Seth Rogen and Leslie Mann. Charlie Sheen in the Hot Shot sequel, Part 2. And then an all-star cast in this one, The Amateurs, which features Jeff Bridges, Glenn Headley, William Fichtner, Joe Pantoliano, and also Lauren Graham, famous for being in The Gilmore Girls. From 2009 and directed by Sebastian Silva, this is The Maid. And then from 1943, we've got Jennifer Jones making her Oscar-winning screen debut in The Song of Bernadette. Eddie Murphy, Michael Rappaport and Michael Wincott in Metro. And Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. From 1959 and nominated for 8 Academy Awards, this is Millie Perkins in The Diary of Anne Frank. An unopened snapper case DVD here, and we've got Lawrence Kasdan's adaptation of Stephen King's Dreamcatcher. Cute-looking Jennifer Aniston alongside Kevin Bacon in Picture Perfect, directed by Glenn Gordon Caron. And then a bit of live-action Disney. We've got Richard Todd as Robin Hood in The Story of Robin Hood. Jack Nicholson and Kathy Bates in Alexander Payne's About Schmidt. And Rainn Wilson, famous for being in The Office. This is The Rocker. Directed by Bruce Beresford, this is Diane Keaton, Jessica Lange and Sissy Spacek in Crimes of the Heart. And here we have Vanessa Hudgens and Alex Pettyfer in Beastly. Adapted from a Terence Rattigan play, this is a 1930s tale of murder, starring Helen Mirren, Harry Andrews and David Suchet, Cause Célèbre. And here's one I actually watched not that long ago, but yeah, saw it at the cinema as well when it came out. Rebecca De Mornay, Ernie Hudson, Annabella Sciorra in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, directed by Curtis Hanson, who also directed LA Confidential. Kirsten Dunst, Ben Foster and Martin Short in Get Over It. And I don't have high hopes for this, but this is the sequel to Joel Schumacher's 8mm, which starred Nicolas Cage, 8mm 2, featuring people I do not know. Okay, back to a couple of box sets. A really nice box set here of Preston Sturges movies. So here we'd have Sullivan's Travels, The Lady Eve, The Great McGinty, Christmas in July, The Palm Beach Story, The Great Moment, and Hail the Conquering Hero. What a collection. I absolutely love Sullivan's Travels. That's one of my favourite Preston Sturges movies. And shall we end on an anthology, but not just any anthology. No, this is a Chanthology. This is the complete collection of Sidney Toler movies as Charlie Chan. So yes, maybe not politically correct movies nowadays, but still of some historical interest. So the movies include The Jade Mask, Meeting at Midnight, The Shanghai Cobra, The Scarlet Clue, The Chinese Cat, The Secret Service, and then one other Charlie Chan movie that's not part of that anthology, but I picked it up as well, and that is Charlie Chan at Treasure Island. And then I'll just finish off with some Blu-rays. These are fairly generic ones. You'll have seen these around. But yeah, we've got Pierce Brosnan in Survivor. A good cast that includes Robert Forster and Angela Bassett, but yeah, not a great movie. Quite likeable film, this one, The Big Year, with Steve Martin and Jack Black and Owen Wilson. I think everyone's seen The Hangover. Helen Mirren in The 100-Foot Journey. Probably a pretty bad derivative of Twister. This is Into the Storm. I'm not a big fan of this movie, but it does help to complete my Clint Eastwood collection, Invictus. Jack Black in Gulliver's Travels. Let's face it, this is a bad movie, Battleship. Reese Witherspoon, Tom Hardy and Chris Pine in This Means War. Hugh Jackman in Real Steel, Melissa McCarthy in Tammy. Nice Blu-ray edition here of Ridley Scott's Prometheus. And a nice embossed slipcover here for Cuba Gooding Jr. In Red Tails. And then finally, for when I've got over 4 hours to spare, we've got Elizabeth Taylor in the classic Cleopatra. Okay, and you have made it to the end, so I hope your head hasn't exploded by watching all of those titles flash before your eyes. Some of those movies will stay in my collection, some perhaps won't. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and comments on any of those. Have you seen them? Any that you want to see? Any that you're intrigued by? Definitely, I will be talking about some of these movies later on in other videos. But for now, this was just meant to be a very brief overview of what I picked up. Okay, hope you're doing well. Thanks very much for watching this. Please like and subscribe. Remember, if you go to the homepage on my channel, I do have playlists of all of my DVD hauls, so look at some of the past ones there. Okay, all the best. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.